How's it going, guys? I'm Danny, and this week I have the highly anticipated video on putting. So with putting, arguably the most important part is practice. You should be practicing your putt every chance that you get. It should feel like a natural motion. It should feel like walking. Now, you don't even have to think about walking to move forward. That's the way your putt should feel, just naturally coming out of your hand. It's also important to have confidence. Every single putt that you line up on the course, you need to have confidence that it's going in the basket. In your head, you need to imagine the disc leaving your hand and flying into the chains. Now, for choosing a putter, there's not one putter that's perfect for everyone. Everybody is going to have a different putter that fits in their hand best and releases best, but there are a couple things to look for. The first is obviously a good feel and a good release. You don't want the disc to be causing any sort of wobble on your hand as it releases. As far as plastic, I always like to recommend stiffer putters. Softer putters tend to warp a little bit right as you put that last bit of torque on them out of your hand, and that causes an inconsistent release. Now, if you're putting with softer putters, that's fine. If you can make it work, it's okay, but generally I like to recommend a little bit more stiff putters so they hold the same shape and it's a little bit more consistent. And also, it's important not to grab anything that's too overstable or too understable. The disc should hold a straight line straight at the basket for every putt inside of 30 feet. You don't want to have to play any sort of hyzer or any sort of flip shot on any putts inside the circle. Generally, a less stable putter is going to fly straighter, so outside the circle putts are going to be easier with a less stable putter, but they don't hold up as well in the wind, and they tend to glide farther past the basket if you miss. So it's kind of a trade-off there in overstable versus understable. But as long as your putts aren't fading out in front of the basket or flipping over too much that you're missing, the stability of the putter isn't a huge issue. Now, there are two main putting styles, a push putt and a spin putt. Most people have some sort of hybrid of the two. Nobody's completely a push putter or completely a spin putter. But in general, a push putt is somebody who push putts is somebody who has a lot of forward motion on their putt and a lot of power coming from their lower body and not a lot of wrist, not a lot of spinning coming onto the putter from their wrist. Generally, the spinning is caused just by their fingers as they release, and they have to pitch the disc way up in the air and it falls down into the basket. Now, this is a really consistent putt inside the circle. This is because there's not a lot of moving parts. The arm isn't generally bending too much. It's just the shoulder sort of pivoting and throwing the disc forward. And that means there's not going to be a lot of deviation from side to side. Now, a push putt will generally have more issues hitting the band or hitting the cage because it's coming down as it's coming towards the basket, so it's a little bit harder to get the distance correct forward to back. But side to side usually isn't as big of an issue with the push putt. Now, a spin putt is just the opposite. Generally, a spin putt starts with the arm bent and the wrist curled and the disc is snapped forward at the basket. This generally flies very, very straight and doesn't have a lot of up and down in its flight, but because there's so many movements, so many levers going on throwing the disc, it's easy to miss left and right. Like I said, most people have a mixture of the two styles. I'm generally more of a spin putter, but I do have a little bit of push putt elements in my shot. But these tips are generally things that everybody can benefit from, whether you're a push putter or a spin putter. So, moving on, the first thing that I like to see in a good putt is a wide stance. It's important to set your base really wide apart so you stay balanced and grounded the entire time. It's important also to have a smooth arm motion. The arm needs to come back and straight forward without any sort of pauses in it. Oftentimes I see people who have a hitch in their putt where they come back and then they wait a little bit before they pop the disc forward, and this is a little bit of inconsistency. Having this come sort of bounce in the middle of its backswing helps a lot with timing the rest of the shot. It also is important to have a backswing. You don't just want to start with the disc back and throw it forward. It's also important to keep the disc on the same line the entire time. Whether you're a push putter or a spin putter, the disc needs to stay on the same line. With a push putt, your arm is going to stay on the same line too, but with a spin putt, the disc is just coming straight forward from your chest on the same line. You don't want to have any sort of curve in your putt where the disc pops out, because that's going to be really inaccurate. It's important to keep the disc moving straight forward at the basket. Arguably, one of the most important factors in a putt is the follow through. At the end of your putt, all of your fingers should be facing forward at the basket. Now, for straddle putts, a lot of the same things apply. It is important to have a good wide stance. It is important to have a smooth motion and a good follow through. but a lot more of the power has to come from the upper body in the follow through. So it's important to account for this while you're lining up your putt. I tend to have a little bit more of a loft in my putt to give the disc time to glide towards the basket. And because my shoulders can't get as lined up at the target, my disc is going to have a little bit of hyzer on it. Now this is going to change for every person, but it is important to know how your straddle putt differs from your regular putt, so you can account for this when you're lining it up. All right guys, that's all I've got for putting. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. This weekend, I'll be playing in the Full-Blown Open up in Fairfield Bay, Arkansas. It's a great tournament. It's a B tier run by Matt Lloyd. If you're in the area, I highly recommend coming and checking it out. And until next time, remember, slow is smooth and smooth is far.